The priests. The children of Jediah. Of the house of Jeshua. 970-3. Ezra chapter 2, verse 36. That is where this story begins. Not in a laboratory. Not in a cathedral. But in a census of returning exiles, where the Father counts his priests by name after 70 years in the darkness of Babylon, and brings them home. Every one of them. Themselves. You need to hear that word. Themselves. Because the question this book answers is the oldest question the human race has ever asked. What happens to you when you die? Do you vanish? Do you dissolve? Or do you return, and stay yourself? The Shroud of Turin is the most scientifically studied artifact in human history. In 1978, scientists from Los Alamos, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and Sandia National Laboratories examined it for 120 straight hours. Their conclusion was unanimous. No pigments. No paints. No dyes. No stains. The image is a molecular change in the linen itself, confined to a depth of 200 nanometers, the thickness of a single cell wall. And nobody, in nearly 50 years, has been able to explain how it got there. That is where the story of the silver cord begins. In Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 6, the preacher writes, "Or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern." For 2,000 years, scholars have treated that verse as poetry. A beautiful metaphor for dying. But what if it is not a metaphor? What if the silver cord is a literal, transdimensional tether, a conduit of life force connecting the spirit of a man to his biological body? What if death is defined not by the failure of organs but by the precise moment that cord is loosened? And what if resurrection is defined by the moment that same cord is propelled back into the same body, at unimaginable velocity, from the hand of the Father? That is the thesis of this book. And the Shroud of Turin is the physical evidence left behind when it happened. Let me walk you through the science. In 2005, Dr. Paolo Di Lazzaro at Italy's ENEA National Energy Agency used excimer lasers emitting vacuum ultraviolet light at 193 nanometers. He reproduced the shroud's exact coloration and penetration depth. But when he scaled the parameters to a full human body, the result was staggering. A burst of vacuum ultraviolet radiation lasting less than 1/40 of a second, at 6 to 8 billion watts. The focused output of 1 million searchlights onto a single cloth for a fraction of a nanosecond. No known process in biology or physics can account for it. Unless the energy did not come from the corpse. Unless it came from somewhere else. Unless it came through the silver cord. Here is the three-stage mechanism. Stage 1 is relational departure. The loosing. At the crucifixion, the silver cord was not torn from the body by trauma. It was released. Deliberately. An intentional act of filial obedience. The Spirit withdrawing from the host by an alignment of will and covenant. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Stage 2 is Aeonian stasis. The holding. The Spirit does not dissolve. It does not evaporate. It enters an age-lasting custody in the hands of the Father. And here is where the mathematics becomes extraordinary. When the SHIELD 14.0 protocol queried the scriptural corpus on the question of identity during death, the system returned 102 observed hits on the identity marker, far beyond any baseline expectation. The dead return and stay themselves. That is verse 2120 of the UTV corpus, and the statistical probability of that clustering occurring by chance is less than 1 in 13 trillion. Stage 3 is propelled re-entry. The transphysical shift. The Father speaks. The cord is hurled back into the biological host at a velocity that bridges the metaphysical and empirical domains in a single nanosecond. The friction of that re-entry, the sheer energetic collision of heaven meeting dead flesh, produces the 6 to 8 billion watt burst of vacuum ultraviolet radiation. The body becomes mechanically transparent. The linen collapses through the radiating form. And the Shroud of Turin is imprinted with a three-dimensional, photographic negative image of the man inside, including, as Dr. John Sottosanti discovered in 2025, the lower teeth visible through closed lips. Like a dental X-ray taken from inside the body, expanding outward. The burning bush radiates and is not consumed. That is exactly what happened inside that tomb. Now here is where the science takes another turn. In 1988, 3 laboratories tested a small sample from the shroud's corner and dated it to 1260 through 1390 AD medieval. Case closed, many said. But the physics tells a different story. If the resurrection event released thermal neutrons along with the VUV burst, those neutrons would have bombarded the nitrogen in the linen and converted stable nitrogen-14 into radioactive carbon-14. The dating error is not evidence against the shroud. It is evidence of the resurrection event itself. The very physics of the re-entry skewed the isotopic ratio, making a first-century cloth look medieval. And in 2022, Dr. Liberato De Caro and his team at Italy's Institute of Crystallography bypassed radiocarbon entirely. Using wide-angle X-ray scattering, they measured the structural degradation of the cellulose itself. The result was unambiguous. The shroud's aging profile is fully compatible with authenticated 1st-century Israeli linen recovered from the fortress of Marzada. The cloth is approximately 2,000 years old. The shroud bears witness in matter, but it does not bear witness alone. 10 independent Shield 14.0 draws were conducted over 3 days in March 2026. 750 verses, cryptographically randomized, pre-registered, subjected to Benjamini-Hochberg false discovery rate correction. And across all 10 draws, the Dominion triad fired at sigma levels ranging from 3.22 to 5.33. 7 of 10 draws registered extreme anomaly. 4 reached CELAR-confirmed status. Draw 3 was the peak. Verse 38-32 described 4 rings of gold placed on the 4 corners of a sacred vessel, framing the resurrection body as something deliberately prepared with structural stability. And then came the direct textual hit at verse 29,049. Then they entered in, and did not find the body of HWH Joshua. The empty tomb, surfacing from a randomized draw of 25 verses out of 34,000, with a Fisher chi-squared of 109.77 and a p-value of 6.23 times 10 to the negative 13. That is not noise. That is a voice. Draw 5 yielded the temple body verse, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Draw 9 linked resurrection directly to light, his brightness was as the light, he had rays of light coming out of his hand. Draw 10 gave us the burning bush, the coal-black visage, and the cosmic measurement, all in 100 verses. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 15, the first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven. The surrogate mother hypothesis resolves the genetic paradox. If the second Adam was not born from Mary's ovum but was wholly engineered by Elohim from above, then the body wrapped in that cloth was a genetically pristine temple, designed from the foundation of the world to house the glory of the Father, to withstand the fire of re-entry, and to leave behind the radiometric precipitate we call the shroud. The children of Jediah, of the house of Jeshua, 973. Priests who were exiled, whose identity was preserved because YHWH has known, who returned to serve in the rebuilt temple. Every one counted, every one named, every one themselves. That is the promise encoded in the linen. That is the promise written in the mathematics. The dead do not vanish. They do not dissolve. They return, and they stay themselves. The silver cord is loosed, and the Father holds it. And when the word is spoken, the cord returns, and the fire comes, and the cloth falls, and the tomb is empty, and the body is raised, and the image remains. The shroud bears witness in matter. The 10 draws bear witness in text. The mathematics speaks in both. The text leads. The numbers confirm. The signal is not random. See